another member of the church sins against you, go and point out the fault when the two of you are alone. If the member listens to you, you have regained that one. But if you are not listened to, take one or two others along you, so that every word may be confirmed by the evidence of your witnesses. If the member refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. If the offender refuses to listen even to the church, let such a one be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, truly I tell you, if two of you agree on earth about everything you ask, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For wherever two or three are gathered in my name, I am among them. The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you,
Praise
O
to you,
Christ.
Christ. You may be seated. This past week, I was at Wartburg Seminary in Dubuque, Iowa, for what we call Prologue Week, the first week of the semester where we kick off classes and spend intentional time in community with other seminarians before jetting off in our own directions. There are many reasons I can think of to be thankful for such a week: classes in person instead of on Zoom, social gatherings with good friends in weird Airbnbs, kicking off a school year well, and 71-degree afternoons are a nice touch. Yeah. One of my favorite things, though, is walking along the Mississippi River. The thing that ties so much of our nation together, the Mississippi, like so many other bodies of water, is one of the most beautiful of God's creations. If you sit at the shoreline, you can see where it might never end. There is a lot to be learned from sitting and looking at the water. If you are present at high tide in the ocean, the waves come crashing into the shoreline. That is greatly exacerbated by the midst of torrential storms like hurricanes. At high tide, the ocean seems to command your attention and invites you into a conversation. It is loud and roaring. Resistance to its natural movement can be detrimental. If you are in the water when the tide is at its peak, you will be pushed and nudged into the shore. Conversely, at low tide, the ocean is generally calm, and the waves come in quietly, softly, still, majestically. There you are lured into a moment of quiet and perhaps deep reflection. In our gospel reading, we have a cool pairing. In one moment, Jesus is giving advice to his disciples, and by extension, the larger church, about reconciling with one another. We might even be tempted to call it a church policy, or one of those how-to guides, or top 3 ways to improve your work culture. But then, after this mini policy, Jesus offers us words of spiritual importance, concluding with this famous consolation: for where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there among them. The mundane and the mystical, side by side in Scripture, and both are essential to our discipleship and wholeness. In our text, Jesus quite literally gives us a step-by-step instruction for what to do if a member of the church sins against you. You are the aggrieved in this scenario, and you are called to go and point out the fault when the two of you are alone. The rest of Jesus' church policy concerns what would happen if the first step doesn't work. If the person who hurts you doesn't listen to you, more people need to be involved. And if that doesn't work, the church needs to be involved. And if that doesn't work, consider them a Gentile and a tax collector. Which you have to wonder, does that mean considering them a beloved child of God? Much ink has been spilled about whether Jesus' church reconciliation policy actually works or not. Does it place the aggrieved in a difficult spot? Isn't telling the whole church a little extreme? Maybe a copy and paste approach from the first century to our century is not the ideal interpretation for this scripture text, or most scripture texts. The church has long wrestled with how to reconcile its various conflicts, choosing many diverse approaches, some recommended and some definitively not recommended. Nevertheless, there is no reason to dismiss Jesus' words. There are strong currents under this text that are essential for our movement back toward one another and our movement towards Jesus. First, we go straight to them. Yikes. Scary. What does it not say? Go to 2 or 3 or 12 of your closest friends. It says, go to the person who wronged you. We should start praying for courage now. Second, it says, tell them about the fault. You can't assume that they already know and that they were simply expecting you to walk up at any moment to confront them. They might not know, so you both need to get on the same page. Third, eventually, the church needs to be involved if the conflict continues. A prolonged disagreement between various members of a community is like a wound that festers. In other words, it affects the whole body. The whole body takes a toll. This gospel text points to our mundane actions as disciples. Not mundane in that this word from Jesus is lacking interest or excitement. Rather, Jesus' church policy on reconciliation is mundane in that it speaks to our earthly duties, our worldly existence, our daily discipleship. Most of us spend our lives in the mundane, going about our earthly duties as best we can. We go to our workplaces where we create our own policies to improve efficiency and culture. We write emails, we answer phone calls, we do our laundry, we vacuum and put our dishes away. We grocery shop, we chop onions, we file our taxes, we sit in traffic. We help children with their homework, we plant our gardens, we get into arguments with our neighbors, we take care of aging parents. We have tests done and wait for online portals to reveal our futures. We worry about our bank accounts. We lift weights. We watch the Texans lose. We do our laundry. We break up with lovers. We plan our weddings. We muster up some courage and tell someone they have hurt us. Jesus cares about the mundane sphere, the earthly duties that we enact and bear. It's the stuff our lives are made of, that we might live with one another more peaceably than before. He knows our need for help living out our daily existence, our communal existence. He knows that his instructions have to make sense to the embodied people who often misunderstand each other and have no idea that we hurt each other to begin with. The key to embracing the mundane is seeing the inherent importance, its mystical ramifications, its spiritual center. As Kathleen Norris writes in the quotidian mysteries, the Bible is full of evidence that God's attention is indeed fixed on the little things. But this is not because God is a great cosmic cop, eager to catch us in our minor transgressions, but simply because God loves us so much that the divine presence is revealed even in the meaningless workings of daily life. It is in the ordinary, the here and now, that God asks us to recognize that creation is renewed in the morning, or to put it in more personal and theological terms, our inner nature is being renewed every day. Jesus wants us to notice how the mundane is inherently tied to the mystical. He longs for us to see how the human and the divine collide, the earthly and the heavenly kiss. Meaning, he hopes that we might notice how he, Jesus himself, is among us as we pull a wagon of canned food, tack quilts, assemble personal care kits, stuff pillows, do yard work, and all the other things that we might do today. He wants us to notice how he is especially with us in the smallest gathering of the church, where 2 or 3 members of Christ come together. Jesus gives the people this mundane church policy so that they can continue to gather in his name. Our reconciliation comes from the greater purpose. It will help us to learn and recognize Christ in one another's presence. We are given this earthly instruction so that we might continue to worship the God, man in spirit and in truth. We are given this work so that we do not give up on each other and thus give up on the body of Christ. Whenever you are doing some chore, whenever you are doing some mundane or earthly work that feels useless or bothersome or even scary, could you try to see God in your midst? Whenever you are annoyed at the banal bureaucracies of the institutional church, bogged down by all sorts of minutiae, can you uncover how the Spirit is moving and breathing and leading you all, God's people? Wherever 2 or 3 of you are gathered, wounded and beloved, can you hold on to the truth that God is truly there with you? In the person of Jesus, heaven and earth dwell. Humanity and divinity meet. And thus, our mundane, earthly lives are graced with the fullness of God's presence, a presence and power and perfect Trinity who is reconciling all things to one another and to God's very self. Thanks be to God.